Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Whitest Mexican You Know podcast. I'm your host, Antonio, aka the Whitest Mexican You Know. Every episode, I try to have some of the best local Las Vegas comedians on here. Today is no different. This episode, I have my man Reynolds. What's up, brother?
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm all right. How you been?
I've been solid, man.
Yeah.
I've been solid. I've been on a nice run recently, and also very tired.
Yeah.
So you're catching me after about sleeping for 15 straight hours.
Nice.
I will be very lucid.
Fuck, that's good. Shit, I wish I slept that long. Like I said, I passed out probably around 4 or 5 a.m. and then woke up in a panic this morning. Fucking taxes. And it's stupid now. Like, I have to, print out this whole shit, sign some shit, and then mail it to them. Like, we're fucking cavemen.
Yeah.
I thought it was all digital.
I like that you said, like cavemen, known for their postage.
Right.
I know I've seen them scribble the stamps on the wall before when I've been to museums.
Isn't that what is it, the Pony Express?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. So you just hit your 2 years doing stand-up.
Yeah, in 2 years, Wednesday.
Nice. How'd you get into, because I know you've done, radio and you do a lot of improv. Did the improv come before stand-up?
Yeah. I started improv and stand-up around the same time. Started improv January 8th, 2019. Started going to a couple mics around the same time. Did the Sand Dollar. And I didn't have the stomach to stay with it for how bad I was at the start.
Yeah.
And dealing with everybody ripping me and my own issues on my stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like I can't do this, So then I just did improv for the year, and then the world shut down, and then coming out of that, once the vaccine was readily available, I was like, no, I got to commit to this. So that's why I always say it's even though I started a couple times before then, my official date is April 19th, 2021.
Right. That's not bad. And personally, because I've never done improv, that kind of, it scares me, honestly. Because I like stand-up for the fact that I go up there, I do my thing, and I
all
get
on
off.
You.
Yeah, but having other people up there, that terrifies me. Which one do you actually like doing more?
I get this question a lot, man. I would say stand-up is what I love more. It's what I've loved since I was a kid. I mean, I've loved comedy overall, every form of it, sketch, improv, all that stuff.
Right.
But I would say stand-up has always been the thing I've loved the most. And I still, as far as performing, I still love it. The improv stuff to me, I love doing it, and it's great. It's a very supportive environment. We actually had on the Thursday show that Bleach does the other night, a really sweet moment where there's a new crew that's coming around. It's this team called Fluorescent Beige, and I was introducing them, and they came out. It was the 420 show, so a bunch of people were high, and the person that was doing getting the get, they call it, right, going out and getting the suggestion. Steps out and just almost started crying, immediately, because it meant a lot to them, know. And it was just it was this moment of do you remember when it was Mo Cheeks had to help that girl with the national anthem? I think this was in Portland.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that in a way, and to the kid needed a minute to kind of get through it, to compose themselves, and then the entire community was just kind of like, yeah, you got it. Right. And that's always been the difference between improv and stand-up. And I needed kind of that supportive part of when you get through of sucking and all that stuff. Yeah. To help me to get through the stand-up part of it.
Yeah. Because with stand-up, if you start to flub or, get too emotional, people will jump on you. And the only time I've ever seen a crowd or even comedians support somebody who's flustered on stage, it's always a pretty girl. It's always some hot chick, and they're like, no, you got it.
Yeah. I know that always does amuse me when you see somebody come through, and then there's a bunch of dudes that just flocked. You did really good. You did really good. Oh my God. You conjugated verbs. You did it all. I mean, half these guys couldn't do it. No, that stuff does make me laugh with that. As far as I used to talk about the supportive part, because this happened to me at Noreen's. I was struggling with something, and I just couldn't, I couldn't get whatever I was trying to do to work. And when you get insecure, right? And you so you just call attention to it, kind of that didn't work, right? Right?
My go-to is I just go, all right. Just move on.
But so I did that. And there was some dude that was just sitting like right to the right of me. And he just goes, nope. Right?
Fuck.
And I haven't seen that guy around anymore. I don't even remember who he was. But I just remembered, like, that's the difference between stand-up and improv is just the act of bombing. Because it's like when you bomb during improv, like, people look for things to say to you the whole time. Like, you had a great shirt on the whole time. Right? But stand-up is just, you got to deal with that. Like, nope, you're not good.
That was one of the worst things I had. I was at Urban Lounge. This is like a year ago, something like that. And everybody was dying up there. Like, it was just, Urban Lounge is one of the toughest fucking rooms. It could be packed and it's fucking tough.
Yeah.
And so everybody's bombing. I get up there, same thing. It's just fucking eating my dick the whole time.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, every time I hit a punchline, some dude in the back would just go, yeah, fuck him. And I was like, God, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so I just kept going. And with every punchline, he's just, yeah, fuck him. And then I hit a punchline. And then, like, the anticipation of him saying it, but he didn't say it. And then I was just like,
you want with me on that one?
I was like, fuck him. And then I got the room. I was like, all right. That was like one of the weirdest, like, bombs and then recovery at the end. It's like, he fucked me up. I did not know how to handle it because I was only like a year or something into it. And so I just couldn't address it. I didn't know what to do. But then right when everybody was just anticipating, waiting for it at that point, and then I was able to break the fucking ice and it was good.
That's hilarious. Like the first night, so that April 19, 2021, I did Dive Bar. And most of my stuff's just about being bad with women and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I was doing some of that, and there was some girl just in the front row, and I'll never forget this. I was like, yeah, I'm not great with women, and she just goes, but you got dimples. And it was like night one of like doing this, and I was like, it's not even like really a heckle. It's like just very positive and supportive. I was like, I don't know how to react to it because I can't be like, hey man, shut up, I'm trying to do it. And I just
fuck you for complimenting me.
Yeah, she was so supportive over everything I did, and then finally at the end of it, I was like, ma'am, I love you. Let's get married.
One of my favorite dive bar stories is this was a while ago, and there was this old black homeless lady who was just sitting up front, and she was heckling everybody. She was talking shit, and so it became a running thing of everybody talking to her. And then I get up there, and I go, give it up for the dive bar Rosa Parks, because she won't shut up, and she refuses to sit in the back. And fucking Randall was at the bar. He just goes, what the fuck? He goes, you fucking racist? I was like, it's not racist. It's hilarious.
It's a pretty good line. I gotta be honest.
Right? It's not bad.
Yeah. It's a little bit harsher delivered, but it is a pretty good line.
And I remember that was the day that my girlfriend's dad was visiting, and he came out to a couple shows. Like he came to Free Zone, and then we went to Dive Bar later.
The All-Star Crew.
And it was hilarious because I'm sitting there and I'm like fucking talking to them as the show's going on. I'm like, fucking this bitch, and I'm like getting mad because she's heckling the whole time, and I just wanted to like be able to perform and like show my girlfriend's dad, like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And then
she made the right choice. Look, you'll see.
And then I just came out of the gate with that.
Yeah.
And even her dad, he was like, that was a pretty good line. It was like off the top. Like,
how did the rest of the set go?
They're fucking horrible. Because now she's heckling me and Randall's heckling me for being a racist. Like, I can't win. It was a fucking train wreck.
That's hilarious. Oh, man. Like, how do you, I just was talking to Gabe about this recently. Like, how do you react when, it's people just aren't doing well, right? It's just over and over and over again, and it's just death after death after death. Like, what's your reaction, like, when you're watching that, like, as you're ready to go up? Because, like, I was just having it, part of it's me being a comedy snob, is I'm like, that guy sucks,
Oh, right.
And I just get mad when a bunch of bad comedy's happening, which then I have to manage.
Yeah,
if I go up bad, it's, like, not great. But like, so I was saying that to Gabe, and he was like, "Yeah, I could see you getting affected by it."
For me, it's like it depends on who's performing. Like if it's somebody who's like who bombs all the time, and they're just eating dicks, and if it's like a line of them, like sometimes they'll get on that string at Wise Guys, where like fucking people who do it every now and then. We'll just go to Wise Guys. And then so you get like 5 people in a row who are just bombing up there. And it's a train wreck. Yeah. But if it's like good people like that usually do well, but they're eating dicks, it just makes me nervous at that point. Really? Because I'm like, fuck, now I got to go up there and, you know, this guy's funnier than me. Like, how the fuck am I going to get them? And it really gets in my head. But it's like, no, I don't ever just go, fuck him. Like, watch me handle this.
Yeah, well, for me, it's more of a situation of like, if I think the comedy's bad, like, because we're all gonna, you know, bomb. Yeah, right, yeah. It's gonna happen. Not a single one of us on the local scene is like a perfect comedian. Yeah. That's gonna like, you know, Dave Chappelle it and just be like, you know, even a mediocre set's gonna still be pretty solid kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. Right. Like, so I'm like, that stuff doesn't bother me, and it's like, you know, you see your friends bomb, whatever. Like, you know who's good, you know who isn't good. Yeah. And even the people that are new, that are like struggling and trying to figure it out, like, you know, I'm like, all right, I get that. It's just, to me, it's like when I see like a lot of jokes where it's like a hack trans joke or something like that. And I'm like, that's what you thought the punchline was? And then and then you see it like over and over again. And then like, that's when I'm just like, God. Yeah. What is, like, you know.
The thing that infuriates me the most is when people go up there with like street jokes. Like that fucking, oh my God, I get so fucking mad. There have been times where I'm sitting next to my girlfriend and they start the joke and I just fucking drop my head and I'm like, this motherfucker. Like, it really does annoy the shit out of me.
You know what? I can see that for sure. Yeah, definitely if I heard something like that, I'm like, all right. I did that same first night I started at Dive Bar, I followed a guy, what was his name? The new Fresh Prince of Houston, I think he called himself.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, this guy's going to be great. I know it. He wasn't.
Spoiler.
Yeah. But he went up there and like the first thing he did was just do a Mitch Hedberg joke. But not even just do a Mitch Hedberg joke, but he's like, I'm going to do a Mitch Hedberg joke. So like that was like the opener was like, I'm going to do somebody else's joke, everybody. Jeez. And then I'll ease into my stuff.
See fucking Mitch Hedberg tribute band.
The funny thing is this style wasn't anything like Mitch Hedberg.
That's hilarious.
It was just some like random stuff or like that. But I just remember just being like, all right, you're going to do just somebody else's material? Like, that's, you know what? I haven't seen anybody else try that before. Right. Let's see what happens.
That's fucking wild. And that type of shit, like I said, it pisses me off because it's like, as comics, like we put a lot of thought and effort into trying to be unique on stage, and you just fucking go up there and fucking Mitch Hedberg or these fucking street jokes that you could buy in a book. It's like, oh, it really gets under my skin.
That is funny to me. Like,
or like these like gimmicky people. Like there was a dude, I don't know if you ever saw him. He came around for maybe like 2 weeks, and I've never seen him since. But he always signed up as Face Punch.
Oh, I know Face Punch.
You remember that fucker?
You'll always remember when you saw Face Punch.
I remember his set at Wise Guys one time when he like punched himself in the face and then he falls on the floor. Yes. It doesn't move, and then somebody in the crowd is like, call 911. She's just yelling out like, call an ambulance.
Yeah.
And he fucking laid there until his time ran out, and everybody's just silent. Yeah. And there's just that one chick, call an ambulance, and then he just gets up and gets off stage. I was like, what the fuck is this?
That was new era Andy Kaufman. That's what you got to witness that night. I saw him do that at Noreen's, and I think Sam was the guy who kind of tipped me off to like, he punches himself in the face and then goes down. So he goes and he does that, and I don't think Ian had seen it. So Ian like has that medic training, right? Mm-hmm. So Ian gives it a minute, and then he gets to go up there, and I was just like, he's fine. Like I literally, but they don't know, so I just look so unsympathetic to a guy that's possibly dying on the ground.
Yeah, fuck him.
I was like, he's fine. He'll be all right.
And I made the fucking mistake of like befriending him because he was at one of the mics and him and I got to talking afterwards. And then I was like, oh, it was when I was going to feature at Ocha one time. Okay. And so I'm talking to him. I was like, oh yeah, come over to Ocha on Thursday. You know, I'm featuring. I'll do 15 minutes. And then the show starts and this motherfucker is sitting off to the side of the stage and talking to every comic, just heckling, like not even bad. He was just like trying
having a conversation with
them. Yeah, like trying to have a conversation.
So what do you think? Like the Heat -7 tonight or what? Yeah.
And then like people started to get really mad, and the cast went over to the guy and was like, "Dude, like you're gonna have to shut the fuck up." And then I go up there and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I invited this motherfucker here." I was like, "I apologize formally to all of you." It was so. I felt so
Yeah.
bad.
That's hilarious, dude.
This is why I don't like to make friends.
Yeah, I don't like. For me, I tend to keep to myself a lot. Like I'll kind of hang back, you know what I mean? I'm cool with people now and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I definitely for like the beginning of it, I definitely probably ostracized myself even more.
Yeah.
At the start of just kind of being the guy who just hangs in the back.
Yeah,
and
just
kind of
standing against a wall.
Yeah, just like uncomfortable thinking about like how can I get through the set.
Yeah.
And but it's like so I didn't really talk to him. And it was funny, I was just talking to somebody, it was Lidauer. But he was talking about that what's his name? Underwood guy. You know who I'm talking about?
Underwood.
I think he's like a Texas guy. It came out or whatever. But he's
Not
I don't
sure.
know. He came out a couple times, and I think he's just started coming out recently. And I just remember I was standing off to my side. No one was really like messing with me at the time. So I'm just kind of thinking, and he just like he's trying to get my attention, but I'm not paying attention. So he throws something at me, like a matchbook. This is at Founders. He throws like a matchbook, and I'm like, why is somebody throwing something at me? And he turns to me and just goes, I like your set. And then I was just like, shut up, man. Like,
Fucking get
like
away.
it was nice enough, but I was just like, dude, I'm in my head about my own stuff. I don't have to deal with this right now. And like, there's always a part of me that just goes like, if somebody says something nice to me, that I'm like, they're ribbing you. Like they're they're just trying to set it up. I was just explaining to somebody recently, like it's so bad for me. It's like if I'm with a girl and she was like, like, hey, that was great sex. I'm like, what's she trying to prove? Right? Like there's no way. I've been with me.
I know how I fuck.
Yeah. I was like, I've got years of experience. There's no way you're satisfied.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's the funniest thing I think about comedians in general, about how hard it is for anybody to take a fucking compliment.
Yeah.
Like my girl found that out the hard way when we ran into Doug Stanhope at Wise Guys one time. He just showed up out of nowhere, and then so after the show we're all hanging out outside smoking, talking to him. And my girl just leans over to him and she goes, "You're a god, by the way." And he just goes, "Mm-hmm." And then he just goes right back to his cigarette. And then fucking for days after that, she couldn't let it go. Like it really she got so embarrassed. And I was like, you don't fucking say that to a comic. Like,
that is so hilarious.
You just gotta know. Like, just be there and be cool.
Me and my buddy were out at a Bill Burr show. I think at Mirage, maybe. Not really terribly important, but like he was out at the show. I had just interviewed him because I was working at a radio station at the time. So we're hanging back, me and my buddy. The opener comes in, and we're like, oh, maybe Burr will end up coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, we're all drinking in the same area. Yeah. And Burr comes in later. Now, my buddy had a girlfriend who was like just a hellacious drunk. Not like you. No.
Sounds like my type.
But she was like real brutal, like the worst of like the white girls you can imagine when she gets drunk. So we're just sitting there, we're talking. I think Burr comes over. We joked around about some of the stuff I said in the interview, leaves. It was a nice, normal interaction, right? And I'm like a full-on comedy nerd, so I've had it before where I'm like, I just want to be friends, and I've embarrassed myself in front of like Bobby Kelly and like Steve Renazizi and stuff like that, But like, so I'm like, hey, I got through a normal interaction. I don't seem like a crazy person, whatever, So I'm fine. And then me and my buddy go back to talking, and then his girlfriend just kind of vanishes, and we're like, whatever, we'll find her later. And as it turns out, she goes over and just drunkenly stupors over to Bill Burr and just goes like, "Can we hang out?"
Oh my God.
Right? And like I had no idea. And then afterward, I was so embarrassed. I was like, God, he probably thinks we sent her over there,
right. Like that's your fucking fishing line. It's like send a drunk bitch over there.
He'll never turn this down.
Oh God.
20-year comedy vet has never seen a drunk woman stumble up before and ask to hang out.
That's wild.
Yeah.
How many comics have you actually met? Like famous comics?
I always feel like an asshole, like like name dropping stuff on there. But Attell, Norton, let's see, Amy Schumer, Kathleen Madigan, Burr, Jay Moore. These are like ones off the top of my head that I remembered. Bill Maher was another one, and that probably a ton more that were just doing like featured sets that like nobody at the radio station knew about.
Gotcha.
But I was like, again, such a comedy nerd that like I remember I was like I'm doing every interview that's a comedian, and it only became an issue like one time, and I think with Burr. because obviously well known to everybody. So like one of the hosts on the show was like, well, why do you get to do the interview? I was like, because not a single one of you can do as good an interview as I can. It's the most confident I ever had in my life.
Nice.
Where I was like, no, we are full on comedy nerding this. And one of the coolest things about that was, so I had interviewed Norton several times.
Nice.
And then for whatever reason, like he was in town, but like I had to take the day off. So he came in to do the interview, and he was interviewing with the rock station that was attached to our cluster.
Right.
And my buddy told me this because he was in the rock station. He was working on the show. He goes, Norton goes like, hey, where's Reynolds?
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And actually, Mark Norman is another one too.
Oh, right.
I interviewed him. Solid interview. We talked about Seinfeld because he's a crazy fan like I am. And a few months later, I go to the Comedy Cellar. I was in New York, just visiting home and stuff. And hit the cellar, sit in front row with a buddy of mine, and Mark Norman comes up for a set, and he turns and points to me, and he's like, "Hey!"
Nice,
right? Yeah, and I was like, all right, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And like, what was the like with the radio station? Because you said that there was the rock station kind of attached to it, but what was the
So I worked for the sports radio side. Right. I was it's Lotus Broadcasting here locally in Vegas, and it was ESPN. They also had a Fox affiliate. They've since I've left have added a couple other things, but they also had 2 Spanish stations. They had a active rock station with a comp, which you should know, Gooch.
Oh yeah.
That's how I met him. And then there's a classic rock station, 97.1. So like that was the big cluster. Right. And they've since added. Well, they're the official Raiders station now, but I think they run that stuff through comp. And
right on.
I'm trying to think. There's like another sports station that they kind of just shuck stuff off on.
And how did you get into the whole radio thing?
So when I moved out to Vegas, which was June 24th, 2007.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the initial idea was to be a fighter.
Okay.
I was kind of joking around like when I got out of the military, it was like, all right, I'll do comedy or I'll fight, and then I got into a fight first. So I was like, okay. So Randy Couture opened a gym out here. My best friend grew up out here. He got out about 6 months before me. So I had a place. So I was like, okay, it was either this or Chicago.
Right.
And I go here and I'm training MMA, and on the drive every day, I'm listening to sports radio, and I'm listening to the ESPN affiliate here. And I'm really digging what they're doing. It was really good stuff. And so I was like, man, I got the GI Bill. Like, use this, like, do this in case the fighting thing doesn't work out. So go to CSN, set up that, get the internship. And I got the internship at that radio station in part because I went to a telethon that they did, like a 24-hour, I don't know, telethon, radiothon, whatever, what I'm talking about. So you could bid on do an hour of radio. So I bid to do the 3 a.m. hour with the program director, this guy, Mitch Moss.
Okay.
Go talk and tell him, hey, this is what I want to do. So he ends up talking to the guy who's the internship coordinator and says, bring this guy in. So I do my internship, do all the nerd stuff you're supposed to do as an intern, try to be around as much as possible. And then at the end of it, they hired me. And that was kind of like how I got into doing that stuff. And then eventually I would just move my way up into, I was doing remote setups, doing a lot of this tech stuff and, being able to understand that. And then producing, writing for their blog that they had, and then eventually hosting shows. So I worked all the way up there and then flamed out spectacularly.
Really? Like how long were you doing that for?
Let's see, I got hired in January 09, I think it was, or January 2010, because I started interning in September 09 because the Yankees won the World Series that year. So January 2010, I left in May of 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you said you flamed out spectacular, what happened?
I like, again, you've known me for a little bit. I have anger issues that I have to kind of manage. I've gotten better with them. I still have my moments. And basically what happened is like I was working like 13, 14 hours a day, cutting up sound, doing all the stuff you're supposed to do as a producer, try to make the engine run. Financially, I wasn't happy with what I was getting paid. Then I had gotten passed over for a couple promotions for people that, I did not think were good enough for the position. Right. And which then resulted in me still having to do the amount of work. Yeah. And not get, so I didn't feel good with any of that stuff. And then instead of like being a responsible adult and looking for another job and setting myself up so I could leave, I pretty much was just like, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah. I've had those moments.
Yeah. And then I didn't work for like 8 months. And then
Yeah.
I moved to Portland because like another good military friend of mine, that's where he was living.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know if you've ever been through this. I assume you have, but like, they ever feel like you just need a reset on life?
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, all right, new city, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that since I was, 20. When I first left Texas.
Yeah.
It was just kind of I dropped my entire life in a week because the chick I was dating told me she had herpes. My fucking buddies were about to move out to Colorado, and so that night I'm like, my whole world's falling apart. Like, and so I'm talking to them, and they were just like, dude, why don't you just come with us? And I was like, my car is shit. I have a job. I'm in a lease with my brother. He goes, we'll tow your car. You can live in the living room until you'll start paying rent when you get a job out there. He goes, fucking talk to your brother. I'm sure he'll understand. And then that night, I texted my brother. I was like, hey, man, shit's going down. I got to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I get home, and then I just lay it all on him. I was like, I think I'm going to go to Colorado in a week. And he goes, thank God. He goes, I thought you got somebody pregnant. And I was like, no. I was like, I just got to leave.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, man, go for it. Like, he figured out the whole lease thing. And like I said, I quit my job. I had 2 jobs at the time. Quit them both.
What were you working with?
I was working at a restaurant and then working at a vape shop.
Okay.
So it was like during the day, I would work breakfast and lunch, and then fucking have an hour to eat, shower, and then get to the vape shop. But it was cool because the restaurant was like in this little shopping center. The restaurant was here, and the vape shop was like right across the shopping
so it wasn't
center.
like a big travel bill?
No. And then I just lived down the street, so it was super easy. But yeah, I dropped everything, like I said, in a week, and then just went out to Colorado. And then after living there for a little bit, I fucking a company I was working with, it was like a weed industry, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they moved me out to California. And then after living in California, shit wasn't going well with the startup, and then I bailed and came out here. So I've reset a couple times, and like I feel like it's good for you.
I think sometimes you need that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at Portland, when I did that, was not great. I wasn't in the best mental frame of mind. My friend that I moved out there with, he had just gotten married, and I was moving in with him, his new wife, her son, and they had like her friend was staying there, so it wasn't like a super great situation. And like, in fairness to his wife, right? Like, you just get married, you don't want to take on a roommate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she wasn't thrilled with me, and like again, justifiable.
Yeah.
You know,
trying to start a family, and then your punk ass is on the couch. And she's like, "Who the fuck is this?"
So it's just like, it wasn't just a great scenario. So then me and him kind of had a falling out, and then I was just kind of on my own in the city. Portland, I hate the people. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
But the people, or at least in my experience in the 2 years there, sucked. Like,
yeah.
There was like a lot of people that were like nice to your face.
Oh, yeah.
Awful behind your back. So I wasn't thrilled about that. I was doing ring announcing for a pro wrestling company for a little bit. That ultimately didn't work out. And then I started at a radio station there. And I was kind of just doing part-time work and trying to like work my way in. But it was like Portland, expensive city, a top market in the country, and the money they were offering. I'd been in radio enough time, and I was like, the money they were offering to me wasn't acceptable.
Yeah.
So they kept offering me a full-time job, but it was just like ridiculous. And I was like, I'm not working for that.
Yeah.
And then, and then they kept finding their reasons, and it's a business, so like for them, it's like, well, we can find somebody that can do it for that amount of money.
Yeah.
But like, one of the things is like, if you're a guy that complains a lot at the job, there's only so much before they just get sick of hearing that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was there. And then eventually they fired me, but it ended up working out because as that happened, there was a new startup here in Vegas, a place called VSiN, which is like a sports betting was on the verge of being legalized nationally.
Okay.
So this was like an all sports betting network. They had always kind of pitched it as like C-SPAN of sports betting. Never really got there, but like that was the idea.
Right.
And that was starting up, and they were throwing money at people. And a lot of my friends that were in radio were going over there and vouched for me. So I got fired in January of 2017, drove out to Vegas. I drove out, it took me 2 days. So I left on like Wednesday or whatever. By Saturday, I had a job.
Nice.
And it was the best paying job I ever had. But also, it was another case of, even though it was like the best money I ever got, I
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't happy in the situation. There was a lot of things, so I ended up complaining a lot, and then ended up
Right,
getting
right.
getting fired from that job as well.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, like all that stuff, I think like worked out because it led me to where I need to be now.
Right.
Getting depressed enough to try stand up.
Yeah.
Because I think me and you are similar, and I mean not that much, but like it was a struggle to get through, to start.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like like we both love this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it was like, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then eventually you have to kind of just, get the balls enough to get up on stage and just do it.
Because I've wanted to do stand up since I was a kid. Like I've been obsessed with it.
You remember who the first person you saw was? Like the first person you dug?
I remember the first stand up I ever heard.
Yeah.
Was Mitch Hedberg.
Okay.
And it was because my brother.
Did he do any new Fresh Prince of Houston jokes?
My brother and my cousins, my older cousins, used to burn CDs and stuff, and then they would have a bunch of music, and then after like 2-3 songs, it would be a Mitch Hedberg bit.
Yeah.
And so I remember listening to those CDs, and then when that came on, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And it was a great. I remember specifically the sesame joke, the sesame seed, where he's like, "We never give him a chance."
Yeah.
And then I remember the line where he goes, "What the fuck is a sesame?" And it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got really into like Christopher Titus. I remember he was one of the first ones. And then, after that, it was just exploring everybody,
I can see that. For me, it was the first I remember seeing and liking. I was like 6 years old, so it was Gallagher.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he's just like, I could still remember some of the bits where it was like, like, why do you drive on a parkway and park on a driveway? Or like, TOMB Tom? No, tomb. BOMB boom? No, bomb. Right?
Yeah.
Awful. But I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was hilarious. And then like I grew up on Comedy Central and watching like Dana Carvey, Critics' Choice was a big one.
Right.
And then, once you discover Carlin and all this other stuff, and that's the stuff that I do miss about being in the streaming era is you don't have as many like premium blends or like make me laugh type shows. Which were, like, it would expose you to these comedians in shorter bursts,
Yeah.
What was another one? Comics Come Home. Dennis Leary's show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was the first time I ever saw Jon Stewart.
No shit. Yeah.
And like he closed out the show, and then I love that guy. And then when he got the Daily Show, obviously that was like a whole different vibe. But I just grew up and I just watched everything. And then like I was like, I probably should have been doing this since I was like 22.
Yeah.
Or maybe even gone the Chappelle route, get on stage at 14, whatever. Like I should have been doing it early. But I just always made that excuse for why I didn't do it.
Yeah. And I was the same way. I mean, I fucking had great opportunities. Like I said, I lived in Denver. I lived fucking in California. Like these were, like I've gone to the Comedy Works. I've been to the Comedy Store and fucking Levity Live and all these places. But it's just, I couldn't grab the balls to get up there. Because even to this day, I have terrible stage fright.
Yeah.
And that's why I drink, honestly. It's like, I have to drink before I get on stage.
Yeah.
And like even the first time I remember, or for the first couple months, my ritual is I would have 2 beers and a shot of whiskey, and I'd be loose enough to get on stage.
Yeah.
And I've only done a couple shows like totally sober.
You were telling me like a couple months ago about when you tried a sober one. Right? Yeah. You were like, nope, still not there.
And it didn't fucking. It was because I went to what was it? That fucking Diaz Mackey show. On Thursday. It's a
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Backstage.
Backstage bar and billiards.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't know. All of these fucking places have back something.
Yes.
But it's had that show, and I got there kind of late. I was running late. I get there, I get a beer, and then he comes up to me. He goes, "You're up first." Yeah. And I was like, "When are we starting?" He goes, "Now." And so he gets up there, and I'm just fucking trying to down this beer. I'm like, "Motherfucker!" And then I get up there.
Yeah.
And I have the microphone, and it's shaking in my hand, and I'm stiff.
Because you still weren't drunk?
No. Yeah. Because I had fucking 2 sips of a beer. Like I was trying to chug it, but it didn't. It didn't take effect really.
Gotcha.
And I get up there, and my hand is shaking, and like I'm stiff up there. I'm still getting through, like, because I've fucking done this a million times, so I'm still getting through everything. But like the rhythm is a little off. I'm not moving around or pacing like I usually do, and fucking shaking. And then I keep it. That's all I'm focusing on is my hand shaking because I'm figuring everybody's watching me fucking shake up here. So I keep switching the microphone into each hand, and each hand just starts shaking. I'm like, motherfucker. And it was a fucking, like, I have the recording. It wasn't terrible. Like, I got through it.
But how you felt was like
brutal. I was in my head the whole time. And that's the craziest thing. I always heard professional comics talk about how when you're on stage, you can be going through the motions and thinking about a whole nother thing. Like not even being in the moment, but still getting all these words out. And that was one of the first times where I really realized that I could do that. Is that I'm saying all this shit, but I'm running a mile a minute in my head thinking about everything else but what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's the craziest shit.
Yeah, I see. I can't do that though. Like, I have to be in the moment. Yeah. Like, I have to be kind of present with it. Because if I'm thinking about like too many other things, my brain just goes all over the place, and I can't organize everything like that. So it's just like, that because I heard Foxworthy talking about that. I was listening to him on Maron's podcast a while back, and he was saying like, what was it that he was doing his first Tonight Show, and like you had like they were very strict on 5 minutes. Yeah, like you had to hit 5, not 5:01, not 4 minutes, like whatever. You had to hit 5. So he's doing his first joke, and it gets an applause break. So instead of being like, all right, I'm doing well, like he's like, all right, I got to edit this thing and that, and he's just going through and like editing, and I was just like, that just sounds crazy to me, you know?
And I'm surprised because I thought like everybody has that, because I do that even now, even if it's like not a moment where it's like my world's falling apart. Yeah. But it's like sometimes I could just be going through the motions, and I'm just like, oh, look at her tits, and like I'm just trailing off. Yeah. And I thought everybody was able to do that at some point, but that's interesting that like
I like that in your brain there's a Norm Macdonald moment where you just meander. You're just like, you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this Dahmer bit tits, all right, and then we go back.
All right. Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. I love stand-up. What actually finally pushed you to get
onto it? And this was like stuff that I talked about a lot at the start, which is why it wasn't going well. I just got very suicidal, and I set a date, day after WrestleMania, and because I still want to see how the show goes. All right,
let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, I was like, all right, will this be worth it? Nope. All right, to Red Rock it is. But no, so that was what it was. I just got super depressed. I was like, you know what, I'm done. But I should at least try comedy before checking out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That way I at least do it. Yeah. So like I started with improv. Like I said, started doing some classes at a place called the Vegas Theater Hub, which pandemic shut that down. But started there, did stand up a few times, did Sand Dollar. I think I just did Sand Dollar like maybe 3 or 4 times.
That was a good spot. Yeah. I really liked Sand Dollar when it was going on.
It was the couple times I went there. I think the first time I was there, like, I mean, your first time, like you're just like trashing yourself. Like none of it's going well. I think it actually went relatively okay. Even Ian was like very, supportive. He was like, for your first time, it was pretty good. Yeah. But in my head, it was just like, it was all garbage. Yeah. Every time after that, I was like, no, that's real garbage. But so I did that, and then like I said, I just got I was like, so much of my identity when I was a kid was being funny. Right. Like love jokes. Everybody knows Reynolds loves comedy. All that stuff. Was the funny guy in school. Everything. So much of it was that. So it's like when you start, or at least for me, when you start and you go up there and you're not funny, it's like this identity crisis you have. You're like, you're like, oh, everything I thought I was, I'm just not that. Yeah. On top of that, I'm like insanely depressed, and I'm trying to like talk about it to people who don't know me. Yeah. And then I'm just like going up there like, I want to kill myself. And then people are being like, we don't feel good about this at all. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at least, when you make the attempt, try to make us feel okay about this. So I think a lot of it was like, it was a mix of like when I started, just people being like I'm worried about that guy. Yeah. And then other people just being like, oh, we got to go through this again.
I do remember when you started coming around, and it was, I mean, like most of us, it was tough, and I could see it. But I do like specifically remember that there was a flip that you had. Yeah. And I don't know where it came from, because I would just see you, week after week, just doing the same thing. And then everybody's like, hey, fucking Reynolds, here we go. Yeah.
And cigarette break.
Yeah. And then just out of nowhere, I remember one week you just fucking murdered it. And you've been on a good run recently.
Yeah, I feel sometimes I feel uncomfortable, because it feels like, yeah, I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? Like it feels too bragging and pretentious. But the last month has been the busiest month I've ever had comedy wise. I had a 2-week run where almost every gig was paid. I just booked a few more things in the next few days. And so like I'm very thankful and very appreciative and trying, because I do a really bad job of like staying in the moment and trying to appreciate like, hey, I've come pretty far. Because almost always my entire life has been wanting to be like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? How do I get there?
Yeah.
And trying to manage, like, I think a certain sense of professional jealousy is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, jealousy is one thing, but like, envy or like a want for it,
I think that shows ambition. Now, you can't let it detract from you, because it's like, you see like that wise guy showcase, and, like admittedly there I saw people on that poster or that flyer and I was just like, that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for me, I look at it very much of like being internal. Like, you know what I mean? Just do the stuff that you're supposed to do and you'll get to where you need to go. Don't worry about cutting anybody else down. Don't worry about however anybody else is getting their opportunities. Make sure that you're the best version that you can be. And then the opportunities will be there.
Yeah.
But I think we all still have those moments of just being like, that's what you put on there, right?
But, I mean, I just saw a flyer today and I was like, really? Like this guy? Fuck him. But
you just got to kind of put that stuff out of your head. And like I said, just buckle down into like focusing on your own stuff and just being okay with it. And it was just like, I remember, because I remember 2 things with you of coming up to me. It was a night at Free Zone and everybody was tanking. It was just, it's a rough spot, right? And Adam wasn't there. I don't remember who was hosting, but I just remember everybody was doing badly. And then I get up there and I was kind of messing around with just this stuff about I can't even remember what it was now exactly, but I just remember it was just sex stuff with being bad and wanting loving missionary, I don't know, something like that. Right. But actually I'll tell you a different thing about that in a second. But so I go up there and I did that and I finished the set and you came up to me and you went like, dude, that was really good. And I was like, and there was a part of it, like, I'll be honest, like, because I had been feeling comfortable at that point in time. I was like, I know, I was there.
Jackass.
And then there was another night where this is the first feature set I got because Cece got sick. And then they ended up doing a contest at Star. And I did the set, and part of it was ragging on you a little bit, which I don't generally do, but like if we're cool enough, and I've known you a little bit now, we joked around and stuff like that, where I'm like, he knows I'm not.
And I mean, you see the fucking hits I take at Free Zone and all these fun days. Like, I'm the punching bag for some reason. Like everybody comes at me. I don't know why. I have done nothing to these people.
I mean, you should look in the mirror and see what you're doing to cause some of this behavior.
Fuck.
But it get excessive at times. To the point now when I hear it sometimes where I'm like, all right, another one where we're just gonna make fun of Antonio.
Yeah, we get it.
But I was busting your balls a little bit that night, and it kind of worked for the room and the story I was telling. And then so I ended up, getting the feature spot, and I went there and did it. And then like you came up to me afterward, and you were like, yeah, normally like if I would see somebody, and I'd be like, Reynolds won that, but you were like. No, of course Reynolds, and like you were very supportive in that moment, and I was like, all right, cool, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is nice. It's a nice progression to see where I've come from, starting to win people over here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's hilarious because I'm out at these places, I drink. A lot of times I don't remember certain conversations I have with people, but they remember it. So it was like Ahmed when I had him on the podcast. He goes, the first time I met you, he was like, I was on stage, doing a bit, bombing. He goes, and then I got off stage, and he goes, you came up to me and was like, that bit about cutting the chick's head off.
Yeah.
How did you think that was gonna go? And I was like, really? I said that? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I first thought, fuck this guy. And he goes, and then afterwards, I was like, kind of got it. It's like,
it's a valid question. Sure, yeah.
But it's like people have these stories about me. It's like, first time I met you son of a bitch. I was like, I fucking don't remember. I get drunk.
Yeah, I can remember almost everything. Like I got a pretty good memory for stuff.
Yeah.
So I can remember like a lot of like interactions that we have, just waiting to go up and do things and stuff. I'm trying to remember now. Actually, it's like talking about my great memory. Now I can't remember what the thing I was going to tell you was.
Yeah.
But going back on something, if I think about it.
Oh, missionary. You said missionary.
Oh,
sex.
okay, yeah. So that was the first night I ever did well. So that was February of 2022. I don't remember the exact date on that one, but it was I remember it because
that is kind of funny though. It's like
Yeah.
you have the month and the year. It's like that's when I did good.
Yep. Yeah. You know, because I had done like spotty, like okay stuff before,
Yeah.
or had like moments. Like I remember the first time I ever did like a joke that really did well, and it was just a reference to what was her name, like Red Goddess of Love or something.
Oh,
like that,
right.
Like, you remember her?
Yeah.
And so I was following her at Noreen's, and she just does like her thing, which is like my pussy this. Like, it's like 5 minutes of that. And you guys didn't, like, nobody really messed with me. I was still just a very shy, quiet guy who was not doing well. And the first thing I said when I up there was like, somebody does all your material right in front of you.
Oh, yeah. I actually remember that.
Yeah.
I remember
and
you
everybody,
saying that.
It was a good reaction.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to bomb the rest of the set. But
I've had those moments where you get up there, you start strong with like talking shit or doing something, and then it's all downhill, and you're like, I should have just got up,
just walked up.
There you go, good night.
But so I was at a friend's birthday party, and there was this girl that I was talking to, and she just had completely like blown me off. So I was like in a really pissed off mood. And I was like, I'm gonna go do stand up now and then see how it goes. And it was a night at Founders where not a lot of people were doing well. In fact, I don't think anybody was really doing well. Yeah. And then by the time I go up, it was that bartender that had thrown the chair.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like he was there and he was talking loud and being annoying and all that stuff. So I go up there and I start the set and it's like not really working. And then something happened where I had to address the bartender. And then I was like, starting this whole thing over. So I just walked back on stage, retook the seat, and then I just went over. And there was like a lot of sex talk, a lot of ass eating stuff. And like that's just not my style. You know, like even sexually. Like, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I have an allergy. No, but so I was like, all right, fuck it. And that's when I just went on the missionary thing, and I essentially talked about missionary like I was a Def Jam comic, right? About loving that. And like, it's a weird split of like, I look how I look. Nobody really, nobody really messed with me at the time. They were like, all right. And I kind of, I had a really good set. I did well. And then it was one of the nights they were doing a contest. And I remember Summer coming up to me and going, she was like, you might win it. And I was like, whatever. Right? And I was like, I just blew her off like an asshole. But then I go through like the end of the night and I was like, I think maybe I did win this thing. Maybe I didn't win this thing. All right. And then Liz does the thing at the end. She was like, all right, this guy stayed the entire night. I was like, that's me. And she's like, and he's really coming around now a lot lately. And I was like, okay, awesome.
I've been coming around.
Yeah. And then she's like, what do you call it? I think she said something about being bald. And I was like, oh, this is definitely. And in my head, I was like, oh, there's a wrestling pay-per-view. I'm definitely getting it tomorrow. Right? And then she goes, all right, here's the winner, Carlos Anthony.
That's fucked.
Yeah. And I was legitimately mad, like in my head. Like I was like, no, first off, he just did the same thing I did.
You couldn't have slipped in black in there some point.
Something to tell me. But I just remember that was like a funny moment. But I was like, I remember that specifically like being the first night that I did well. And then like, even like nights now, like, in the last few weeks, I've had some where like they weren't great. They weren't like coordinated or anything like that. But there's not the same energy of like when you first start and you're essentially like, please help me through this.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Because I started January of 2020 and then went up until the shutdown.
Did you start here or did you start?
No, here.
Okay.
Yeah, because I moved out here fucking like July of 19, and then waited 6 months, to get my life together and shit. And then I started doing it. And then, 3 months, something like that. And then everything shuts down. And I recorded everything. So before, like while everything was shut down, I was just going over these videos.
How many sets did you have before the shutdown?
Fuck. It was quite a few because when I did it, it was like once a week for like the first couple weeks. I was just going to Noreen's.
Okay.
And then after that, like I started finding out more and more spots,
mics, yeah.
and then I would go out and I hit it pretty hard when I first started.
Okay, because it was very funny in my head just to imagine you only had like 4 sets
Right.
to go off, and you're just watching those same 4.
I mean, it might as well have been. I
Yeah.
mean, with the shit that I was doing, it was fucking terrible. But I remember, like, during the shutdown, just fucking going over these like a psychopath, and
Yeah.
I'm just, hating myself. And I think that was the worst part of like stand up in general,
Yeah.
is not being able to do it, because then I'm stuck with what I've done, and I'm like, this can't be my stand up legacy.
Yeah.
I was like, I fucking hate this. And then when everything came back, I had a noticeable change. Like, even with the first set I did coming back, there was a noticeable change.
Was it the comfort level, or just because you watched so much, you knew the patterns to avoid?
I think it was a little bit of both, but it's also like I got into this mode where I was like, I can't fucking be terrible anymore, and it was like an anger almost. And so I was able to like get up there, and like I had a different confidence, going into everything.
Yeah.
And there have been noticeable like milestones, in comfortability and stuff like that are palpable. You know what I mean? It's like you could really see it, especially if you look at the first set. Mine's on YouTube. It's fucked.
I was watching Bargatze's podcast, and people have been like emailing him, and they go like, "Do you have any advice for somebody who's doing stand up the first time or like that?" And one of the guys on his show, Aaron Weber, he goes, he's like, "Here's my advice. Don't post it on the internet."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good advice. Yeah.
It's crazy to me though. It's like I see a lot of comics who post their sets all the time. Like every set they do, they post it. I'm like, why the fuck would you want to do that?
Yeah, I don't get a lot of that. I mean, I'm a guy that doesn't post anything on it. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she sees like the pictures that get posted. Which great job by Julie, thank you. Is in, and she goes, "It's only pictures. There's never videos of your set." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't film it." You know? And I've had talks about this with people, because there's different philosophies on it. I get it. It's great. I have a good enough memory in my head to kind of know how the feeling went. And I'm comfortable enough to know, like, okay, if I lose some material, that I don't remember because of that, either I'll find it or it'll come back to me, kind of thing.
Right.
There's different philosophies on that. That's fine.
Do you write shit down? Like, do you have like a notebook or anything that you do?
I do have a note in a note section in my laptop at home that I kind of keep for stuff that I know, and it's mainly. It's like, okay, this story, Macho Man story or something like that. Something that I know that I can come back to for like a featured set.
Gotcha.
Like how I could, or this can go here to here to here, and then I can connect them. However, I don't write as much. I mean, I have things written down, but I find myself, if I've done that I'm trying to remember too much.
You're trying to read a script.
Yeah, the exact word for word of it.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. So like for me, it's just kind of like, knowing where I want to go and then trusting myself to kind of get there.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the routine that I've had with it now.
So have you never recorded a set?
No, I've never recorded. I do have one recording from a benefit show I did last year, but a friend of mine recorded me doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any of them recorded. Like I said, I have a general idea when I walk off, like, okay, what to keep, what not to keep.
Right.
Where did I screw up? What did I do? All that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I try to make sure I'm learning from every set, no matter how bad, no matter how good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like you go in there and you go, all right, that didn't go well. Why not? All right, I put myself at odds with the audience. All right, I know that, fix that for next time.
Gotcha. See, and I get that. I mean, there are moments, like at this point, I don't record everything I used to. Like, I was really religious about it. But now it's like, I'll record it if I'm specifically like trying out new bits and like I'm going to be doing them more often so I can try to tweak it,
Find
because
the rhythm of it.
Yeah, because on stage, and this is what I found out, like being on stage, you can think it's going worse than it actually is sometimes. And sometimes you think it's going better than it actually is. Having that recording from the audience perspective really helped me out, because I would, be going along and like maybe I didn't notice that I said something or phrased something a certain way that turn the audience off a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But having that audience perspective, you catch those little things, and
Yeah.
it was definitely been super helpful for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, there's the beauty of this whole thing is that there's a million different ways to do it.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's always very funny to me because, you know, people hate the sitting down thing, all that stuff. Like, you know, that are like, you can't do that in comedy. It's like, you can do anything.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Just be funny. It's really the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so, like, for me, I'm very present when I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm like, okay, and I'm looking and I'm, you know, engaged with the audience. And I'm like, all right, did I lose them? There was a couple moments. There was at Star, I was doing a bit on gun control. And I was, you know, kind of messing around with this idea that I had. And in setting it up, it was one of those moments where I noticed everybody in the room stopped and was watching me, and I had their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the punchline I had did not merit
Yeah,
all that attention. But I was like, okay, I've got everybody here.
Yeah.
I know there's something to this. And the same thing happened to me when I told the Macho Man story. Like, I'd been telling it a couple times. And then the third time I told it, I screwed it up because I gave away at the beginning of it that it doesn't go well, right? Like, I need that at the end.
Yeah.
So I had screwed it up at the beginning, but in the course of telling it, it was at Square. It was a night where, like, again, nobody was, like, paying attention. But through me telling the story, everybody kind of stopped, and I had the attention. The room was just quiet. And it's a very cool moment.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot. But because I screwed it up when I got to the ending part, right, and it didn't work out, it got nothing.
Yeah.
Right. But I had been doing it enough now, and it was comfortable that I could save it a little bit. Because that story is just about telling a girl I love her and her not responding.
Right.
And so now I was like, all right, look, I opened up to you guys, and you guys did what that girl did.
Yeah.
You know, and I got it back a little bit.
Right.
But from that, I was able to learn and go, okay, no, you fucked that up because you gave away. That needs to go at the ending point here.
Right.
And I was talking about this with Adam a lot. Like, sometimes the way I work, the only way I'm going to know is to tell the story and trial and error and find out when it's, you know, when it's not going well, or, like, you know, find a line in there that maybe like I added a line to a story I tell about my mom telling me not to date black girls recently. And it was just like a line that I came up with when I was like, you know, I don't own Monsters Ball on DVD because I'm riveted by Halle Berry's Academy Award winning performance.
Yeah.
But the first time I told that, I had said it in a way that was too demeaning to Halle Berry, I thought. Right? So, like, the joke landed, but I didn't like the way it sounded.
Right.
Because I was like, it shouldn't look down on Halle Berry. So I changed it to, you know, blowing up, you know, her, that she won an Oscar.
Yeah.
And it works enough now, or like that. And it was just an addition that I found kind of in the moment.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit like that. Like, I have some bits that I tried in the beginning, you know, when I first started out, and they never worked, you know, whatever, and I shelved them. And this is why I love having notebooks, is because I write everything. Like, I can do it in my phone. I see a lot of people doing it in their phones. I can't do that all the time. Like, if I think of something and I don't have my notebook, I'll write a note, but I have to handwrite everything. It really, like, it's that connection to, you know, what your ideas are.
And that's
you know?
a big Seinfeld thing. You know, he likes the legal pad and stuff down.
And so I had a lot of bits that I put on the shelf and then, you know, just moved on. And then recently, when I got into this point where I was like having writer's block and I just couldn't come up with anything, you know, and I revisited a lot of it, and I was able to see where I was fucking everything up. And like you're saying, it's like shooting a punchline in the foot. Like, I had one, you know, it's fucking talks about stereotypes, and, you know, I would say like the stereotype, white people put ketchup on everything. And then the whole Dahmer bit, and then the punchline is white people who eat people have to do it with a side of ketchup. And I realized it was saying ketchup twice. And then just changing it to white people can't cook. Boom. And then it lands so much harder now. And it's so bizarre, like that element of stand-up of just tweaking one little thing, and then now it works. It's
like, to me, it's the fun of it. You know what I mean? Of trying to figure out, like, okay, where did that miss? Like, because that's also, you have to have that belief in what you're doing is worthwhile, right? Like, whether or not you scrap a bit, or you, like, when you come back to it, you're like, no, I do think this is funny, just maybe I don't tell it right.
Right. And that was the one of the best advice I got was from Bruce Purcell. Is I was at Dive Bar and I'm trying out this N-word bit. I don't say it.
Okay,
it's just kind of alluding to the fact, like, you know.
I thought you were gonna be like, I'm trying this N-word, so I scream it for 40 minutes. Yeah.
But it's like, just like, oh, we should be able to say it if we're singing along songs, you know, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
I get off stage, and at the end of the show, Bruce came up to me, and he goes, it's not bad what you're trying to do. He goes, but you're not good enough to tackle that yet. He goes, put it on the shelf, come back to it in a couple of years when you're a better comic. And he goes, and then you could probably make this bit work. I was like, all right. Like, I had never thought about it like that. And that's what I've been doing. I haven't revisited that one yet, but but it is still on the shelf.
So when I first started, like I said, I was talking about this, you know, having depression and all that stuff. And then, like, it just wasn't working. And then maybe, I don't remember exactly when this was. This would have been probably about a year in. I was like, you know what? Like, let me go back to that. And I tackled it with, like, or I tagged onto it, like, 2 other things that I had been doing that weren't really working, but I added in this story. And so the depression bit then was, like, I did it at Boulder City, and it landed hard. Like, and I was like, I said to him even too, I was like, you know, you guys are right. I was like, I've done that at open mics, and it gets nothing.
Yeah.
You people are right.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I just remember just being like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, the confidence is there now. You're seasoned enough to kind of know, like, okay, this can fit with here. You know what I mean? It's like a puzzle in a way. Or at least that's the way how I look at it.
Yeah, same. Because just recently I was working on these 2 bits separately, and neither of them were really working. But I was like, I know, like, it would get kind of a laugh, but then the payoff just never paid off at the end. And I couldn't figure out why. And then I kind of put them both together and, like, kind of strung them together, cut out the fat a little bit. And now it's starting to hit. And that's the coolest shit. Like you said, it's like a puzzle. It's like trying to figure it out. And then once it connects, you're like, there it is. I got it.
And then you're like, all right.
Yeah. And
I got something I could charge tickets for here.
Yeah, right. And you're talking about Boulder City. The first time that I ever did that show, it was a while back. It was the first time that I was really in front of an audience. Because
you've been used to doing the mics.
All the mics, and, like, I never did an actual show. I finally went there, and I had the 5 minutes that I've been working on forever. And it was the first time that I had to account for laughter. And so, like, and I could see it. I have the recording, and I go back to it every now and then because you can see it in my face, where it's like I go through, I do a punchline, and then they laugh, and then I start talking, and then I stop, and I go, oh shit, like, they're laughing. And it was like, it was the timing of everything that got fucked up, because I was used to just steamrolling, just get them all out, get all the jokes. But it was like, oh shit, like, now there's a pace to this because they're actually laughing.
I did, I can't remember if it was before or after. I think it might have been before Boulder City. I did Boulder City for the first time last year. And then I just did it recently again. 2 vastly different experiences.
I got to go back over there.
My first event, very good. Like I said, there was engaged audience. The second time I was there, like, recently, very light audience. It felt very much more like a mic, at that point in time, and it was one of those things where it was just like nobody was doing well. One guy did well, Yoshi, which I don't know if you know Yoshi.
I think I've run into him a couple times.
I think this is the only time I've ever seen him. Was doing Boulder City, but, like, you know, he went up there and he was doing his stuff, and he did very well. He was the only one, I think, that did really well that night. And then I go through, and it's funny because Adam had told me this, like, he's like, being a storyteller comic, he's like, you can't, you know, pivot out of the story if it's not gonna work. So I get up there, and this is, I did screw up because, like, I just put myself at odds with the audience. Everything was everything was you know, being stoned or drunk, you know what I mean? Like, sober guys are weird. Well, I'm the most sober guy, right? So I go up there and I'm like, I know this isn't gonna go well. Don't say that. You don't need to say that, right?
Don't put that idea in their head.
Well, like, I was trying to make it right, but it just didn't work. You know, and I was like, okay, that's where I screwed up because I'm already at odds with them right away. Right. But so I go there and I'm telling a story about the first time I get high, but the second I start the story, I'm like, this is not going to go well. It's not going to see it. And I had their attention. They were engaged. They were listening. Just nothing was really landing. You know? Like, it was like a couple of those, like, you know, I'm looking and, like, with 1 or 2 people, they're like, it's like a lot of those chuckles. And I was just like, all right, you know, and then you just take and you learn from that. So like I said, there was like 2 different experiences. But, like, the first experience I had with what you're talking about was, like, you know, the laughter being there. was I was doing this pro-choice benefit last year at the Majestic, and burlesque community was there because Brandy, who puts on the Sunday retro peep show thing, was producing it. So funny thing with that too is as far as lineups go, right? She's like, all right, you're on third. And then some act started, and then she just brings me up, and I was like, I thought I was, I was like, I guess I'm up now. But so I go up there, and I made a joke about following a burlesque act, and I was like, it's so weird, and I crapped on the community a little bit. Like I was like, our stand-up community. Because like usually I'm at open mics, and like I have to follow somebody with talent. Usually I just follow somebody spewing hate, right? And it got a good laugh. So then I go into my stuff, and like the first thing, and it just got that wall of laughter, which is just it's why we do this, right? Right. And I was like, I got that, and I was like, all right, like this is all right. This feels good. You know what I mean? But it is like, in that moment, you're like, oh man, like it's okay. This is this is what you do at Noreen. This is what you do for Rezone.
Yeah. This is why we do it. This is why we fucking walk through the mud with all these assholes, so we could get one time where it's like fucking yes.
It just validates. We're like, no, I was right. That is funny.
And that's why I like going to Wise Guys. Wise Guys
have to do that more.
Yeah, it's really good. And recently they've been like, for the Tuesday bucket mic, they've been almost packing out the place. So it's it's really good audience. And what I've been doing recently, because you get 3 fucking minutes, and I've been tightening up the same 3 minutes for like a month now. And I've gotten it to a point where it's like I do a bit and then I end it like on a callback. And when I do that, the fucking applause and the fucking laughter is intense. And I'm a junkie for it. But the one thing I'll say is I don't like these comics who only go to Wise Guys. They go twice. Like, that's all the stand-up they do is twice a week, both at Wise Guys. And it's hard to bomb at Wise Guys. So they fucking killing it all the time and then walking around like they're big shit. And I'm like, go to fucking one of Dennis Lavender's show. Those will fucking make you like work for it. And I started doing the Silver Nugget when I was like 5-6 months in. And it was the toughest shit. And I feel like, but it made me better, I think, having to deal with that audience,
Well, I mean, the thing is, for any of us that want to do well, like, we have to get used to playing all different types of audiences, hot audiences, garbage audiences. You got to learn that. You got to learn how to play, a black room. You got to learn how to do a racist room.
A dive bar.
No, but you just, you have to learn how to play it all. You know what I mean? Like, I have this private gig coming up, and this is in my head. I'm like, this is gonna be a disaster. Like, I'm just like,
that's awesome.
I'm doing,
what is it, like a
50-year-old birthday party? Jesus. And I'm like, oh, this does not seem like the right setting for comedy.
No, not at all.
And I was just like, I'm like, all right, but you have to learn how to do that. So like, to just work through and do all that stuff. The people that go through and are only doing Wise Guys, whatever. To me, I don't care. Like, I try not to focus too much on anybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in my head, I do look at that and I go like, all right, well, you're not gonna make it, or that's a pretentious version of me of just going like,
I more see it as they're gonna they're gonna burn themselves out because they think they're really good, and then they're gonna get booked for something and then eat dick, and like that's I think the downfall. It's like, if any of them were my friends, I would tell them, like, you're gonna go there. If you get a booked gig somewhere, you're probably gonna bomb, and then they're never gonna book you again. And like, so you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, not going out and really, like you said, testing out all these different audiences to really see if your material works.
Yeah, but that's on them to learn that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, to me, like I said, like, I don't worry about it too much. There was somebody, like, because I do get annoyed sometimes listening to people talk about it. But it was there was this girl that came around to do a Square Bar a few weeks ago, and she's talking about she did it a couple times in Reno or whatever, and she's like, yeah, my friends tell me they're like, yeah, you're gonna bomb. And she's like, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And it's like, now I go up there and I was trying to bomb, and it still hasn't happened. And in my head, I'm just like, all right, shut up.
Yeah.
I was like, because I don't even think you understand comedy at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're the greatest comedian of all time, like I'm going up and I'm trying to bomb. I'm wearing suspenders and I'm just like, hey, yuck, yuck, everybody, and I'm killing it. I'm like, I don't even think you know what's going on.
Yeah.
But like that annoys me a little bit.
That honestly, if I was listening to that, I would have to walk away because it would piss me off to hear that. I would almost kick that bitch in the throat.
Well, you don't need to go that far. But I literally was just like, I was just like, okay,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that stuff tends to annoy me a little bit. But that's again, they'll figure it out in their own, or they won't. Like it becomes the thing to me of being like, you know what? All right. You're probably not going to make it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't view it as like, you know, like I lost out a spot to the person that never bombed.
Yeah.
You know?
And have you gone outside of Vegas to do comedy at all?
No, just the Boulder City stuff, which I call it a pseudo road game, Boulder City.
Yeah.
But no, but I am looking into, I might be going to Chicago in the next few months. So trying out and, you know, getting some spots over there.
Nice.
Whether it's hitting mics or whatever. I don't care. I just want to see a different environment.
I think everybody, like every comic should. Like
you went to Arizona on a run recently, right?
Yeah, in January, because my brother was out there doing some kind of military training.
Yeah.
It's a lot closer than Texas. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna drive fucking, what is it, 5 hours?
4 or 5, yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll spend a weekend out there so I can hang with you. And I was like, I can do a couple spots or whatever. And then my girlfriend's dad was like, if you're really going to do the comedy out there, I'll put you up for a week. I was like, done. And so, I hung with my...
tell him that I'm also...
right? And so, it's, the first weekend I was just chilling with my brother. I took him to a couple mics just because he never gets to see me do stand-up.
Which ones did you got to do? Do the ones in Phoenix? Like stand-up? What's the name of that club? Or did you just do the ones that are like...
I did House of Comedy out there because I was at some random open mic. And Jason Santiago, he's like a big name. He saw me at the open mic, and I talk about being from Vegas or whatever. And then he asked me, he was like, "Fucking Vegas." He goes, "Do you know Adam Dominguez? Do you know Fitzy?" I was like, "I fucking party with those guys." And he's like, "Done." He goes, "Come,
I like that our answers would be very different to that. Right? Like, I party with those, and my answer would have been like, "I'm aware of them.
I know them. They're nice fellas." And so he booked me for House of Comedy, and it didn't pay anything, but I was like, fucking, it was a great club to be at,
You filmed that spot, right?
Yeah. Terrible video. I gotta get a camera or something. My phone sucks. It's like fucking 9 years old. This fucking phone, dude. And like, I'm so out of the loop with phones now. I didn't realize that being able to take the back off of my phone is like archaic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like everybody tells me when they see it. It's like because I had to replace the battery because this fucking thing is so old.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm with you on that because like the only time I replace a phone is like when it starts dying, and then like. I was like one of the last few people to get a smartphone because I was still hanging on to the flip phone. And when I walked in, like I'll go into this and I go, no, I want exactly like this.
Yeah.
I don't want because I want to learn anything new.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy was like, he was just, oh my God, he was so snippy with me. He was like, they don't even make that anymore. And I was like, I don't need this at a Verizon store, okay? Like so that's how I ended up getting the smartphone. But I'm the same way where I'm like, I'm not replacing this until I have to.
Yeah. And it's like like I said, I've had this phone for like has to be like 8 years or something like that. And it was like
that's pretty solid.
Yeah. And then it would die at like 50%. Like it would say 50 and just dead.
Yeah.
And I dealt with that for like a year. And then I finally just ordered a battery off of Amazon, tossed the other one, put that in. It's like a brand new fucking phone. And now it's working and shit. Yeah. But now it's starting to like weird shit is starting to happen.
Like it's glitching or something?
Like my girl tried to call me the other day and it just sent her right to voicemail.
Excuse?
No, trust me, I've turned my phone off before, but this time I didn't. And like she tried calling me a couple times.
Your phone's doing like some artificial intelligence thing. You don't want to handle this call right now.
She's just calling the bitch again. I'll send it to voicemail. Good looking out.
Yeah.
But it's like
it just writes a text back, and it's just like hanging with Steve Henry. Don't worry.
I'm not allowed to do that anymore. I'm really not. Like, she fucking hates if I'm talking to him. Like I'm okay with Steve. Like I understand the circumstances of that night. But she was like, I hate him. He lied to me. He's a piece of shit.
He's dead to me.
Yeah, pretty much. And so if she sees me talking to her, she's like, she'll stare me down. And I'm like, my bad. I'm fucking in trouble. But yeah.
She's not wrong.
No.
She's justified in her feelings. I'll say that. Saying not wrong. Yeah.
Fucking get over it. Anyway. But doing the run out in Arizona was really good. Like, first, like, just all the connections you can make out there, in a new city. And then also, it allows you to, I don't, like, it's a change of pace. You know what I mean?
It broadens everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not seeing the same, I don't want to say necessarily the same, you know what I mean? Because it's not like we're big enough when we're doing, like, the Artifice crowd is so different than this crowd, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? Yeah, it allows you to see, like, a different environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, because I am now to the point where I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable in what I'm doing. Now it's time to take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got to start going out to, some more of these shows. I got to start going to Wise Guys more.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, if you take a trip somewhere, like, get up, go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because the thing is now, I can't imagine not doing this. Like, starting after the pandemic is kind of, like, pretty beneficial to me. Because, like, if I had started and am where I am now and then everything shut down, like, if everything happened again, I would be so much worse off. Because, like, this is just, like, what I love doing.
Yeah.
So it would be very hard. Whereas, like, during the pandemic, I had only been doing improv a year. So it was kind of a bummer that had stopped, but it wasn't like too harsh, and I still saw a couple of my friends here and there.
Right.
But if I had stand up and then I stopped, that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm doing any of the Zoom stuff.
Like,
and if you did it, if you are doing it, great. Good for you. It's just not for me.
Yeah, there's no way I'd be able to do that, because a lot of people told me about it. Like, once everything shut down, they're like, "Oh, I'm inviting you to this and that and that." I'm like, "No, I'd rather just stand in the mirror and fucking say shit to myself." But I liked going to Arizona because it was like I was getting into this place where I was starting to resent stand up in a way, because because it was just every fucking night trying the same thing out, fucking bombing in the same way at these open mics. Like, bombing, people say you can't bomb in an open mic, but whatever. I'm not getting laughs. And so it's just it was the monotony of everything and just going through it. Yeah. And then getting out to Arizona and just feeling free, you know what I mean? Like, finding these places, talking to new people and all that. And then when I came back, I felt, in a sense, more appreciative of everything going on around here. Yeah. Because we can hit, 2-3 mics a night. Out in Arizona, you could do one a night, maybe. And then certain nights, there's just nothing. And it was like, that was the weirdest thing for me. It's like, I'm there to do stand-up, but then it was like a fucking Wednesday. And there's nothing going on. Yeah. And so now I'm just fucking walking around Phoenix and shit. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, that is funny, of like that experience, because like there are some certain cities that are, Kathleen Madigan talked about it when she started coming up. It was like once a week. Yeah. Like that was the opportunity, was the open mic once a week.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? And we're spoiled in a way out here because we have so many opportunities to do things. Like, I think you could do almost every night, right?
Yeah. Like, every night. Yeah. At least one, you know.
Because I started trying to think, because like, there was like a dead night.
It used to be Fridays.
That's what I was thinking.
Because it was only the dirty.
Brim just started that show.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah. So then you have the Friday spot, and if you want to get out there and do it, you can. Yeah. For me, I have been taking Tuesdays off. Because like at some point, like, you still got to get groceries and stuff like that. Like, dude, again, I think you'll relate to this, is that, like, you love this so much that you let other stuff kind of like fall by the wayside. Yeah. So for like 3 months, my car had like a low tire pressure warning, and then I drove to work, and then I had to get to the theater for the improv show. And when I walked out of work, I saw I had a flat tire. Yeah. And like, luckily, the girl who I bought the car from, also an improviser, is much more responsive than me, so she had a spare. Nice. But also the mechanic at the limo dispatch company I work for was there, so he was able to put it on, because I don't know how to do that. Right. So like, I ended up getting through it, but I told him, I was like, hey man, I had a low tire pressure warning for like 3 months, and he was like, Jesus, man.
Yeah. What the fuck are you doing?
And I was like, gotta hit these mics, man. Like,
No, I get it. I mean, that's just like just recently, last month or so, I've taken a lot of time off of stand up because it's hard, especially being in a relationship like this.
Not familiar with that.
This fucking the lifestyle, like it's a nightlife. You know what I mean? Like you have to go out.
Me and you are very different in that respect, right? Like, yes, it is a nightlife, but I'm not gonna be the party guy.
Yeah.
You know,
I can manage it better.
Yes.
You know, but there are some days it's like last night. You know, I didn't have to go to the dirty.
Yeah.
But it is good to show your face there. You know, it is networking. Like, even though I'm not performing, I'm still, in a sense, doing my job with stand-up. Like, this is a part of it. And it, like I said, that's why I've been taking a lot of time off, because I'm trying to correct that behavior of staying out all night and just hanging with everybody after the shows and drinking and all of that shit, because it's not helping anybody. You know, it's just pissing off my girlfriend and creating tension. You know, I've seen a vast change in mine and hers dynamic after I stopped hanging out so much, and I come home at like fucking midnight and everything's great. And then
she's not yelling at you anymore.
It's like, but it's like, even like just reducing her stress. It's like, now she doesn't.
The version of that now is very funny to me, is the idea of like when you're partying and you come back in, the first thing she says is like, "Where have you been?" To like now, like not doing that stuff. Like you come home, like and you're like at the library or something, right? And she's like, "It's great to see you." Just like how big a swing that must be.
Like, it's even wild for me to say sometimes, where it's like, you know, she was really happy because I came home at 2 a.m. And it's like, in any other relationship, that'd be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is what I do. You know, this is our dynamic.
That's hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hanging out thing can be a problem for some people. It's not as much for me because, like, you know, being the sober guy. But I do like just hanging out and talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've gotten myself in that situation of, like, showing up to work on a Tuesday. Like, I'll just be talking to Adam for, like, 2 hours at a free zone and stuff like that. And, like, you know, some of it comedy, some of it being like, what did you think of WrestleMania? Right? Like, night one was better than night 2, right? Like, oh, my opinions.
Yeah.
You know? So you do all that. And, so the hanging out stuff can get you a little bit.
Yeah.
I screwed myself a little bit Wednesday night. You know, I was doing the improv show that I host with a buddy of mine. And afterward, you know, another one of our friends was there, and we talked until like 2 a.m. just about nonsense.
Yeah.
You know,
everything and nothing.
Yeah. I just like hanging out.
Yeah.
But I go, and then I had to go to work, and then I had to go to the theater, you know, the next day. So there was like no rest time in between.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those nights where it's just like you're so tired. And luckily it was the 420 show, so me not being able to talk, you know, and stumbling over words at times kind of played into it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I was like, Jesus, if I could just formulate one sentence, it would be nice tonight. I got to get some sleep.
Yeah, and then fucking pour booze on top of that. It's like, I've been struggling for a while. But hopefully, you know, I'm getting back to it. I'm thinking about
getting into a program. This is good.
Fuck AA. A is for pussies. I'm gonna try mushrooms.
Mushrooms Anonymous? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that you know, that whole microdosing thing. I think I'm gonna try that out.
Give it a shot. Whatever helps you, dude.
I'm grasping at straws at this point.
I feel like you're like grasping at straws and you're like, all right, AA is something that's proven to actually help people. Nah, fuck that.
Nah.
Yeah.
What am I, a quitter?
Yeah. Like, well, you're like, yeah, no, I'm grasping at straws. This thing works. Look, I'll figure it out on my own time.
I am drowning. There's a lifeboat. Fuck that.
This is like your version of being like, no, this is holistic though.
All natural, baby.
Yeah. I'm going to Trader Joe's so that way I can get my hangover medicine.
And that's the thing. It's like, I enjoy drinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, too much.
But and that's the thing. I don't want to stop drinking altogether.
Yeah.
I just need to be able to regulate it, because that's the fucking mode I get into. Is I have a couple, and then I have a couple more, and then it just spirals, and then it's fucking, let me take that and snort this, and fucking, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
And I know that about myself. I can spiral very quickly. I used to fucking do heroin, dude. It's like, this shit's been a problem.
Yeah. You should really look into some of those programs, man. Like, I feel like you're bypassing the easiest solution.
I'll find Jesus first. Oh, fuck. All right. I'm going like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, that works.
Wrap it up. It's been great, man. Do you have any social media or anything you want to plug?
Just the Instagram at I am Reynolds Comedy. That's pretty much where I do everything comedy based. I'm not on Twitter as much anymore.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. I
got to get better at this social media shit. Like, people say, like, you got to get into it, and it's fucking hard for me.
Dude, I'm the same way, but I was very nice recently because there was this girl I met that she works as a reporter for the BBC in Pakistan, right? I met her when I was doing a thing in Casper, Wyoming.
Okay.
And she hit me up recently, and she goes like, "Hey, judging by your Instagram account, it looks like you quit the station or doing comedy full time." And I was like, "So that's what it looks like on my Instagram account." And that's me not even really trying that hard.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that's somewhat the perception of it.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It is very tough to be that that much and having to be like, "I'm out grinding again."
Fucking hate that.
Here's the same four flyers of me doing open mics to make it seem like I'm doing actual shows.
And that's the thing. I only post on my Instagram when I'm booked for an actual show. So it's like every fucking 2 months where I'm posting something.
Yeah.
And then even with this fucking podcast, it's been hard to get on a rhythm with it. Like I said, I just dropped an episode. It's doing well. It was a good episode. I recorded it a month ago.
I'll be on the lookout a month from now when this comes out.
I got way too much now. Like, fucking in 2 days, I think I have Yarborough, and then I have a bunch of other people coming up. So, hey, stay tuned, folks.
I don't know. The Yarborough thing just made me think, it's like, is it an intervention for the two of you? Is that what's going to happen?
That'd be fucked. If my girlfriend's setting something up behind the scenes, walk in here, it's a bunch of comics. Sit down.
Guys, you have hurt me in the following ways.
We're here because we love you. Fuck. But yeah, go follow Reynolds. I'll put the link to his Instagram in the description, like I always do. Follow my Instagram, _Hernandez_comedy. And stay tuned for all of the fucking episodes that are coming out now. I'm getting back to it. I'm finding Jesus, goddammit. All right. I love you, dirty cocksuckers. I'll see you later.